Hello and thank you for stopping by. Today I have this dump pick pressure washer and I'm going to go through it to see whether it's trash or a treasure. I'm also going to show you the reasons why it may have been thrown out, and then I'll show you the reasons why I decided to pick it up. First of all, as I mentioned, this was a dump pick. When I went to the local dump, this was sitting by one of the dumpsters. Nobody wanted it. It was clean when I picked it up. I had it under my work tent, but I had to put it out, and it rusted up somewhat in the last month or so that I had it. Finally have a chance to work on it, and let me point out why it may have been thrown out. The engines on these power washers generally hold up. Usually what goes is the pump. A couple of reasons for pump failure. One, when they're put away, this is New York State, we get freezing weather up here. If it's put away with a little bit of water in the pump and no antifreeze, it's put in the shed or a cold garage, it freezes, the pump is shot. Another way the pumps get destroyed is when this engine is running. If you check your manual, most manuals will tell you not to run this engine longer than 30 seconds to a minute without squeezing the trigger on the hose, because it'll build up the pressure in there and that'll blow the pump. And another area where there's trouble at times is this unloader valve down in here. Now, it could be something simple that's just clogged under here, and that's just a simple clean out, no parts required. It could also be that the engine is shot. Before I picked it up, I did pull the cord on the engine, and there is a fair amount of compression on it, so I don't believe it was the engine. And just to give you an idea, I tried to find this particular model, and I couldn't find this brand online, although I was able to find parts for it by using the part numbers. Similar models that look like this with a different name, same amount of cc's. It's 160 cc, that's 163 cc, which may be anywhere from 5 to 10 horsepower, probably closer to 5 horsepower on this model. It depends on the engine configuration. Price on similar models run from 178 and up. Usually they top out around 350 for this 2500 psi and 2.3 GPM. So let's get the price of this, $250. Now, if you had to get parts for this, here's where the kicker is. This didn't have the hose and the wand, so I'm assuming that was good. That's why it was kept. It did have the nozzles. This is for the soap. This is a for less pressure. This is a little more pressure, and usually there's a red one, and that's the high pressured one. So I'm assuming that the hose and the wand was good. But if you needed the hose and wand kit, that alone was for $149. It was on sale for $89. And all these parts that I'm mentioning are without shipping and tax. If you need that unloader valve, it lists for $59, and they have it on sale for $32. If you need the thermal relief valve, they have it listed for $39, on sale for $19. So if you take just the sales price and add up all those three parts, that's $316. Oh, and that if you needed the pump itself, the pump lists for $269, and they have it on sale for $149. So if you list all these parts together, we're talking $316 for the lower half of this unit, not counting the engine. And like I said, this model ranges price-wise $178 up to $250, maybe $300. Said I couldn't find this particular brand, Workforce. So that's why this was probably dumped. The owner probably started it up, squeezed the trigger, didn't have any pressure, looked at the part list or brought it into a shop. They gave him the news. He took it to the dump. Now the reason I picked it up, first of all, it was a clean looking unit, and if I wasn't going to use it as a pressure washer, I could use this engine on something. I'm sure this engine is going to work. Just from the look of it, it doesn't look like it was used or abused. There wasn't any gas in the tank, so that tells me somebody tried putting it away properly. And the oil, I did check the oil before I took it, just for the heck of it. Normally I would just take it without checking it, but look how clean that oil is. It looks like the oil was just changed. Now for all I know, this thing might even work. Maybe somebody bought a bigger unit and just dumped it. I've seen mowers that were dumped and there was nothing wrong with them. They started right up. And I needed this frame, this cabbage. I use these carriages for different projects. I do have a project a couple of years back where I used one of these, some bed frames, and the metal from a microwave where I made a welding cart for my Harbor Freight Flux Core 90 welder. That's in the video up there if you like to watch that one. Now, take a look at this. Here we have overhead valves, and look at this filter. I didn't see this when I was at the dump. I found out when I came. Look how clean this filter box is. This filter looks brand new. And it may be the filter that came with this unit, and I'm saying that may because it's a little discolored, and if it was a brand new filter that was put in because the other one was dirty, I think the color would have a little less fade on it. So these are some of the reasons I picked it up. And if all of this turns out to be of no value, I still have the cart that I wanted originally. Now, as far as the hose for this, if I had to buy the hose, I don't know if it would be worth it going through it all. I could buy a brand new unit and I know everything's working on it. But I was given a couple of hoses a few years back. We'll see if they're clog free, and I'll use those on here. I want to get this running because I was using an electric Harbor Freight power washer that bit the dust. I do need one now. It's fall, and I like to clean up some of this equipment before I put it away, and I like to power wash the house one time before the bad weather hits. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to hook up a hose to the inlet and see if water flows out. If water goes from the hose to the outlet, I know I'm not clogged down below. And if that's the case, then I'm going to put some gas into the engine and see if I get it to start. If the engine starts and the water's flowing through here, I'm going to get one of those hoses that I have and see what kind of pressure I get out of this. If I don't get enough pressure coming out of it, I'm going to go right to this unloader valve right down here. So let me go get the hose to hook up and we'll see what we have. Well, you can see water's flowing through, so there isn't any blockage from here to there, but it doesn't mean that the pump is working properly because the pump could be broken on the inside. So my next step is to shut this water off, pick up some fresh gas, turn the water back on, and see if I can start this engine. And the reason I have the water running through when I go to start up this engine, because if this engine starts and there isn't any water running through, it will burn out this pump. So let me go pick up some fresh gas and we'll get back to this. I have fresh gas in the tank. There's oil in the engine. The on button is on. There's water going to the pump. I put this hose on and I put it on in reverse, and you can see that it's leaking. Having a little trouble getting that piece off. That's where it should be connected to the water pump, but that adapter I can't get off right now. So for the time being, I'm leaving that on. I just want to make sure water was going to the pump. Let's see if this is going to start. Trying to set up this camera where I won't be knocking it over, and that looks good. Let's see now. Climb it up a little bit. Nothing. Nothing. Let's see. There isn't any shut off for the fuel. Get up here. All right, I don't feel anything on this. I'm going to pull the plug and see if I have spark. That'll be the first thing I do. If I have spark, then I'm going to go to the carburetor, see what it looks like in there, because I haven't touched it. I was assuming the carburetor was clean because there wasn't any gas in the tank. I'm going to shut this water off and take it from there. I pulled the plug out. This looks like it's a brand new plug. Looks like it's never been fired. A little bit of rust on the tip. But on the working end here, it looks like it's new. Let's see what we have. I don't know if the camera will pick up the spark in the sunlight here. We'll see. Okay, I don't know what the camera picked up, but when I held it underneath over here, I did see a spark. I'm going to take this cover off and look at the coil and see if it's rusted up or if it's gapped or what the story is there. Because it was sparking, but it wasn't sparking every time. So it looks like I have 1, 2, 3. Looks like I might need a 10 millimeter. This may be a 7 or an 8. All right, let me get this off and I'll be back. I did get this to sputter a little bit. I shot a little bit of gas in here, and I used the drill with a socket on it. Show you what I have. Jeez. I tell you, this little camera takes a beating. Okay, shut the water, John. Thank you. So the fact that this started, it burned out a little bit of gas I shot in there. Lets me know that the spark is okay. I'm going to check these valves also. But for right now, I'm going to pull this carburetor, see what that looks like on the inside. If there's any blockage in it, clean it out, put that back on, try it again. And if it doesn't work at that point, we'll go to the valves. If these valves aren't set just right, that could throw everything out as well. Yeah, this camera took a spill before, and I can see I scratched the back of it. I hope I didn't scratch the lens. But anyway, this is a new one for me. This piece comes off. It's connected to the carburetor, and the governor spring is connected to this on this second hole back here. This is where the governor spring was connected to. That's down here, the governor and the throttle. You have the throttle lever coming to the carburetor, to this plastic piece, and you have the spring connected on the bottom here. Have these gaskets. It looks like the gaskets are all okay, so try not to damage those so I don't have to order new ones and I can get this thing running. Now, I'm going to have to take this gas line off. I'm going to have to hold it all the way up because I filled this tank with gas. I really thought that this was going to start up. So I'm going to get this carburetor off. I'll open it up and I'll show you what we find inside. I'm going to take a look on the inside of this carburetor. Looks fairly clean from this point, but we have to see what's inside. As just a tip, I couldn't get this little nut off on the bottom. I put it back onto the engine and use the engine to brace it. This way I don't have to worry about snapping any of these pieces off. And let's see what we have. Okay, here's our problem. Now this tank was dry, the gas tank, but evidently there was still some gas left in here. Is the camera picking that up? I can't tell. Let's see. You have all this debris in here. Well, if it's in here, it's definitely up in this. So now we'll take this apart. Maybe. Working outside today. It's a nice day out. Only bad part about that is running back and forth getting the tools I need. Let's see. Oh, this isn't here. This should come right out. Look at that. This pin is stuck in here. Wait a minute. That's got to go up and down. I don't know what the deal is with this. See the needle? The top of the needle? Normally this would fall right out. That's not happening. Now I got to get the main jet out. That's down in there. Let's see what I have to do to get this needle out. Look at this. It does go up and down. You can see that. There we go. Huh. Gonna use some carburetor cleaner, clean out the inflow. I'm gonna pull that main jet out, clean out in here, and scrub this bowl. If I had another bowl, I would put a new bowl on, but I don't have one. But I'll scrub this out with some steel wool, and then we'll get this back together. All right, I'm back. I have the carburetor cleaned. Normally I clean the outsides before I start. I slipped this time. But I have the inside cleaned. I cleaned those jets, put them back in. Now, in here, I mentioned it earlier, there's 3 holes. This one, there's 4 holes. Right back in there, if the camera could pick it up, I can't tell from the viewfinder. I wasn't able to get my wire in there. This wire is just a little too thick and I don't have anything thinner. And for my specialty tools, I have this brush, a toothbrush, and this wire. That was it. Now, you recall how rusty this bowl was? First thing I did was scrape it out with this wire brush. And normally I use carburetor cleaner in there, some soap and water, and I scrub. But what I use this time, and it's only the second time I'm using it, is this Vapor Rust. I have a video up above where I used it to remove the rust inside of a steel gas tank on a go-kart. That's the first time I used it. As far as using it as this aluminum, all I did was follow the instructions that was on it. Actually not fully, because it said to keep it longer than what I did, but I could see it was eating away at the metal. And you can, after you use this, pour it back into the bottle and use it again. But after I get that gas tank, I poured it into this container. Now this time it came out a little dirty, and I'm not going to pour it back in there. Although it says just keep pouring it back in and just keep using it. All right, enough of a plug for this. Back to the carburetor. I'm going to get this bowl back on. I have the back gasket on, the other gasket here that goes in the front. I'm going to get this back together, hook it up. Once I have the carburetor connected, I'll be back to show you whether it's going to start. I'll be using that drill on top to see if we get it going. All right, I have it all together. When you put it back, you don't want to forget this governor spring. You have the hose in the back. Make sure that's connected. It's in the start position. So let's see now. Okay, Phil, you turn that water on, please. Go ahead. Okay, the water's flowing through. Okay, shut it off. Thank you. See that it fires up, and it should start fairly easy with the cover on. I like using a drill. It saves my shoulder from pulling and pulling. I was going to take this off and clean it, but it looks like it's running okay the way it is. Not touching that. I didn't mention this choke lever before, but you want to make sure you have the choke on when you start. Pull it off when it starts. The kill switch works on it, and you can see that pressure built up when I released the choke and the engine revved up. So this looks like a treasure. I'm glad I picked this up. I thought for sure that the carburetor was okay, but maybe the pump was bad because there wasn't any gas in the tank. It looks like the previous owner did try taking care of it. The oil was clean, so they put it away with clean oil. Maybe it just was used only once. Don't know. The cowling doesn't have any scratches on it. The unit itself is clean. Don't forget, I left this outside, and that's where all this mud and whatnot. So you never know what you're going to find when you go to the dump. And again, our resources are finite. I could have just easily went out and picked one of these up for a couple of $100, $250, $190, whatever it may be. But a couple of things. Didn't just save the $200. I kept this from going into the landfill. Sure, some of it might have been scrapped. Who knows what they do over there. They say it goes to scrap. Some will, some won't. But you still have the plastics. You still have the aluminum. You have all different components on here. And I'm sure a lot of it would have ended up in the landfill. Eventually, that's where it may end up anyway. But for now, I have myself a power washer. I just have to work on that hose. And I'm good to go. If you found this video entertaining or useful, give it a like. It helps a lot. Post your comments or questions down below. Be sure to share it with someone else who might find it useful. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe. Hit that Joe Z button. And until next time, stay safe.